What we are going to discuss today is something about miasm, what is the understanding of miasm, how it is to be applied. As this quotation is very well known, that beginning was promising, continuation was less favorable, the outcome hopeless. This is about the treatment of any chronic disease, especially where miasms are involved. That beginning is always looks very promising, and ultimately the case become very unfavorable. Let me start with saying how the whole thing started. Hahnemann observed that during his time, some of the cases were coming back with same symptoms or similar symptoms. And the remedies that was given by him, the remedies used to give only some temporary relief. And even after the same medication was indicated, but it gradually became less effective. So, rough weather, physical or mental exertion, injuries, or emotional event, they often triggered the reappearance of the symptoms about which we are talking. And then, when these relapses occurred, sometimes it was observed that new symptoms were there, and these new symptoms were very stubborn. And naturally, Hahnemann was very much worried that what is happening, and then he started working on it. That why the carefully selected remedy did not lead to the lasting cure. Homeopathy is supposed to give a permanent cure, but which is not happening. So, what went wrong? And either of the three reasons can be there. Either the number of the medicine that was discovered or used at that time were less, or the application of the medicine may not be correct, or if there is something which is preventing the cure of chronic disease. Whereas the same vital force is restored in where the acute diseases are concerned. So he started working in these lines. And then during this 1816, 1817 period, he started working and continued till 1827. There he came across this truth behind the chronic disease. The new approach was that truly chronic disease doctor must understand this concept that every symptom is not separate, but every symptom is a part of single underlying disease. And the remedy that was supposed to be used, that must match, that must be similar to the entire pattern of symptoms, not just treat the symptoms individually. And then there is reference of one letter that he wrote to staff is about the treatment of his daughter. There is something very significant in this letter, that is why I have put it here. Here he is about talking about that one medicine, one anti-miasmatic medicine may not be enough for totally removing the disease. We sometimes wrongly think that we take up a case taking in details, we come to a medicine, and that medicine will be indicated to the patient throughout his life. That will be constitutional or miasmatic or whatever name you give it. That medicine will be ultimately the final solution to the patient. Actually, it does not happen so. Because Hahnemann himself is saying that many new medicines may be required, and you must replace the yellow line, you must replace with another antisoric remedies. And he is of this opinion that it may happen that you may require more than one medicine, one after another, as the symptoms may be indicated. And during this working for this period, he came to this conclusion that there are two types of disease condition. One, the mechanical condition, and another, the miasm, which are of three groups. The mechanical condition, he says, is easier. They are caused by external factors, and they are largely self-curative. Don't need much of a medicine, except the medicine may assist, but more important than the medicine is removal of the cause. That is more important. In some condition, it may involve deep-seated condition which complicates the disease. Medical intervention may be necessary to alleviate the distress in such cases. His line of investigation during the period was the natural chronic disease condition and those disease conditions which were produced artificially, which were having similar symptomatology. And sometimes the depth of the disease affecting the person was almost similar with that of the natural chronic disease. He came to conclusion that chronic diseases are not simply isolated symptoms but manifestation of a deeper underlying condition. And this condition is miasmatic and they are chronic in nature. Once it develops and intensified to a certain degree, it cannot be eliminated by a strong constitution, healthy lifestyle, or self healing. Instead, over time, the original illness worsen goes from bad to worse, and their newer and newer symptoms starts appearing till the end of the life. Over the time, Hahnemann became increasingly convinced that based on his observation, many different disease conditions of the human body, ranging from minor issues like wart, malformed nails, more serious problems like tumor, bone swelling, spinal, they were mostly caused by Psora, one of the miasms. The three miasms, Psora, syphilis, psychosis, and one of them is Psora. And he believed that these ailments, though categorized under various medical terms, were essentially manifestation of this underlying Psora, with a few exceptions, those in case of psychosis or syphilis. As we all know, that these three miasms, the psychosis of the figwort disease, syphilis of the venereal chancre disease, and Psora, which was at the bottom, the itch eruption. As a result of the hereditary transmission for thousands of years, Psora has evolved into countless disease conditions. Hahnemann says that Psora, breaking out from its latent state, can be observed in most variable form imaginable according to the bodily constitution, the deficiency of upbringing, the habit, the mode of occupation, the external condition of the individual. All these factors, the constitution, the upbringing, the habit, the environment in which the person is growing up, all these factors give Psora various forms in which they are manifested. Many diseases that traditionally medicine considered distinct entities, the homeopathic view is that they are merely secondary expression of the underlying miasmatic disorder. Hahnemann states that individual physical constitution affect the Psora will be manifested, making it challenging for the physician to recognize its full scope. Because every person have a different constitution. And since every person has a different constitution, in every person, the Psora will be manifested in so many varieties of ways. So one can understand how much of challenging it will be for the physician to recognize the various forms in which the Psora is manifested. For example, in majority of instances, sulfur is not sufficient by itself to cure thoroughly the Psora. Though we know it as the king of antipsoric medicine, but because of its varieties, so what we need is several remedies are necessary, and in the worst case, a large number are required in succession. If this tremulous army of Psora symptom is to be dominated, definitely a cure is effected. Hahnemann, also emphasized that only the internal medicine is not enough. We all know that treatment is not limited only to prescribing. Prescribing is a very integral and important part, but there is also non-medicinal management. And that is what he is stressing, that proper lifestyle, diet, mental well-being were very crucial along with the right remedy to cure the person. He strictly forbade coffee and China tea and warned that emotional distress, dietary error, and other disruption could hinder the treatment. These were Hahnemann's findings. So we can understand that sometimes we don't get the desired result. Considering, suppose that the medicine selection is correct, the medicine has been given correctly, patient is taking correctly, but the last line, if you see, the emotional distress, dietary error, and other disruption. One, in today's time, it is very difficult to keep oneself away from these disturbances. So these are the factors sometimes which is not letting our medicine to get the desired result.